The global shift in power, how BRICS is challenging the Western order. Over the last decade, we've witnessed BRICS emerging as a powerful coalition, now expanding beyond Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa to include new members with massive influence in global resources and politics. Is this the beginning of a new world order? What is BRICS and why was it formed? BRICS is an acronym that stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. These 5 countries make up a unique coalition that brings together some of the world's largest and fastest-growing economies. BRICS countries are spread across 4 different continents, representing diverse cultures, political systems, and economic models. Despite these differences, they're united by one goal: to challenge the Western-dominated global economic and political system. With a combined population of over 3.2 billion people, BRICS represents about 40% of the world's population. Together, they account for over a quarter of global GDP. But this isn't just about numbers. Each BRICS nation holds strategic regional influence, giving them a significant voice in international affairs. To understand why BRICS was formed, let's take a step back to the early 2000s. Back then, the global economy was heavily influenced by Western powers, especially the United States and European Union. Developing countries often found themselves at a disadvantage in this system. With limited influence in institutions like the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the World Bank. There was a clear need for an alternative voice, one that represented emerging economies and challenged Western dominance. In 2001, economist Jim O'Neill from Goldman Sachs coined the term BRIC to describe 4 emerging markets: Brazil, Russia, India, and China. These countries were seen as the next big economic powers that could shift the global balance. The concept gained traction, and in 2009, the leaders of Brazil, Russia, India, and China held their first BRICS summit in Russia. In 2010, South Africa joined the group, making it BRICS with an S. This expanded the coalition to include a significant African presence, turning it into a truly multi-continental organization with representation from South America, Asia, and Africa. BRICS was formed with several core goals. First, the coalition aims to promote a multipolar world. In a multipolar system, no single country or alliance has dominant power, creating a more balanced international order. This contrasts sharply with the current system, where Western nations, especially the US, have significant influence over global institutions and policies. Second, BRICS is committed to reforming international institutions. They believe that organizations like the IMF and World Bank have been shaped by Western interests and often impose strict conditions on loans, which can undermine the sovereignty of borrowing countries. BRICS countries want more voting power in these organizations, giving emerging economies a stronger say in global economic policies. Third, BRICS seeks to create alternative financial systems. For example, the New Development Bank, NDB, also known as the BRICS Bank, was established in 2014 to fund infrastructure and sustainable development projects in BRICS and other developing nations. Unlike the IMF and World Bank, the NDB offers loans without conditions that could interfere with a nation's domestic policies. This gives borrowing countries more freedom to pursue their own development paths. Recently, BRICS expanded to include Saudi Arabia, Iran, Argentina, the UAE, and Egypt, forming a larger group that we're calling BRICS. This expanded lineup brings together countries that control vast natural resources, particularly energy resources, and major emerging markets. One of the most critical shifts involves BRICS exploring an alternative to the US dollar. Since World War II, the dollar has been the world's primary reserve currency, a position solidified through international agreements like the Bretton Woods system. Most global trade transactions, from oil to manufacturing goods, are conducted in dollars, and countries around the world hold large reserves of US dollars as a safety net for their economies. This dominance gives the United States unique leverage, allowing it to influence international trade and impose economic sanctions. However, this very power has prompted countries to seek alternatives. So, who is pushing to move away from the dollar? It's a coalition of diverse but influential nations. Each with its own motivations. China, as the world's second-largest economy, has been vocal about de-dollarization. With the rise of its digital yuan, China is aiming to promote the yuan in international markets. By encouraging its use in trade with partners like Russia, Iran, and Southeast Asian countries, China hopes to establish a currency less reliant on Western financial systems. After facing extensive sanctions from the US and Europe, Russia has accelerated its push to reduce reliance on the dollar. Moscow has started trading more in rubles, euros, and yuan, particularly in energy exports to countries like China and India. For Russia, avoiding the dollar is a way to insulate itself from Western economic pressures. The BRICS bloc, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, has openly discussed alternatives to the dollar, even considering a shared currency for trade among member nations. With the recent expansion to include countries like Saudi Arabia and Argentina, BRICS is collectively exploring ways to trade without the dollar, creating a new power bloc that could challenge the dollar's dominance. Imagine the impact. If countries no longer need dollars for oil or other commodities, demand for the dollar could plummet, potentially destabilizing the U.S. economy. While this alternative currency is still a hypothetical, its mere suggestion has generated significant attention and concern from Western economists. By promoting the yuan, China hopes to expand its influence, especially among emerging markets. A world less dependent on the dollar could elevate China and BRICS members as economic and political leaders. Energy resources are the backbone of the BRICS strategy. Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Russia are some of the largest energy exporters in the world, and their alliance within BRICS gives them collective control over a substantial portion of the world's oil and gas supply. By coordinating on energy policies, BRICS can effectively influence global oil prices, which impacts everyone, especially Western nations dependent on energy imports. Imagine if BRICS decided to trade oil only in their new currency. This would be a massive blow to dollar dominance in energy markets and could spark significant shifts in global trade policies. In addition, this control over energy resources gives BRICS leverage to negotiate favorable trade terms with countries outside the alliance, especially those in Europe and Asia. Finally, while there's momentum behind this movement, replacing the dollar won't be easy. The US dollar is deeply embedded in global trade, and alternatives lack the same level of trust and stability. New financial systems would require infrastructure, regulatory support, and wide adoption, all of which take time and resources. BRICS is not just about economics, the group is increasingly focused on military and security partnerships. Russia and China, in particular, have been engaging in joint military exercises and sharing technology. This cooperation could expand within BRICS, creating a multinational defense bloc that rivals NATO. Countries like Iran, which face sanctions from the West, see BRICS as a safe space to grow economically and militarily without U.S. interference. Some analysts believe that if BRICS develops its own security framework, it could reduce Western influence in regions like the Middle East and South Asia, potentially igniting new geopolitical tensions. The U.S., in response, might intensify its military presence in regions adopting alternative currencies, aiming to secure its strategic interests and deter potential shifts in alliances. Digital currencies also introduce cybersecurity risks. Adversaries could target financial and military systems tied to these digital assets, making cybersecurity a priority. Additionally, an arms race could emerge as countries freed from dollar constraints enhance their military capabilities. Rising naval competition in critical waterways, such as the South China Sea and the Persian Gulf, may further escalate tensions. This trend also places pressure on NATO and Western allies, potentially driving them to balance U.S. alignment with economic ties to these evolving markets. The growing power of BRICS is already attracting attention from other developing nations. Many see BRICS as an alternative to the US and Europe-led institutions that historically imposed strict conditions on financial aid and loans. BRICS offers a model that emphasizes sovereignty and less interference, making it attractive to countries in Africa, Latin America, and Asia. These nations might begin aligning with BRICS for trade, aid, and development, signaling a decline in Western influence. Imagine a future where African or Latin American countries look to BRICS for infrastructure projects instead of Western institutions like the World Bank. Nations that depend on US dollar-based loans and trade might experience financial volatility, potentially increasing the cost of imports and debt repayments. On the flip side, countries aligning with BRICS could gain some economic leverage, accessing favorable terms and investment opportunities from this new coalition. However, the potential fragmentation of global trade routes and financial systems could complicate economic growth strategies, forcing developing countries to make tough choices between long-standing dollar ties and new, emerging alliances. This power shift creates both opportunity and risk for these nations as they navigate the evolving financial landscape. This shift could fundamentally alter global power dynamics and reduce Western leverage over emerging markets. In response to the rising influence of BRICS nations, the West is formulating strategic countermeasures to maintain its geopolitical dominance. One major tactic involves reinforcing economic ties with traditional allies, strengthening partnerships through trade agreements and security pacts. The US and European nations are prioritizing collaboration in technology, particularly in critical sectors like semiconductors and renewable energy, to counterbalance the tech advancements of BRICS countries like China. Additionally, the West is investing in diplomatic efforts to woo countries that are on the fence about joining BRICS+, highlighting the benefits of adhering to a rules-based international order. Sanctions and economic pressures are also being deployed against nations that exhibit excessive alignment with BRICS+ initiatives, aiming to curb their influence on the global stage. As the battle for economic and political influence intensifies, the West must navigate a complex landscape, balancing assertiveness with diplomacy to counter BRICS+ and retain its leadership position in a rapidly changing world. The outcome of this geopolitical chess match will define global dynamics for years to come. As the global landscape shifts, the emergence of BRICS+ signifies a potential realignment of power and influence, challenging the long-standing dominance of Western nations. This new coalition, representing a significant portion of the world's population and resources, may lead us toward a multipolar world where economic and political power is more evenly distributed. The implications are profound. Developing nations could gain more leverage, while traditional Western powers must adapt to a reality where their influence is contested. As countries navigate these changes, questions arise about the future of international cooperation, trade dynamics, and security arrangements. Will this transition mark the dawn of a new world order? Or merely a temporary reconfiguration of alliances? As we watch this geopolitical evolution unfold, one thing is clear: the balance of power is in flux, and the decisions made today will shape the global landscape for generations to come. The world stands at a crossroads, with the potential for collaboration or conflict on the horizon. Thank you for watching, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video.